Imagine you wake up and all electricity on Earth is gone forever. Not just the lights, your cars, water pumps, mobile phones, and bank ATMs. Everything dies in a heartbeat. Money loses all its value. Today, we follow a modern family forced to eat cat food just to survive. How did the world suddenly collapse back into the Stone Age? In Tokyo, the dysfunctional Suzuki family lives in a suburban apartment complex. Wife Mitsu is talking to her father Suzuki, who has sent the family a box of fresh vegetables and fish. He wishes they would visit him more often. When Mitsu tries to make her daughter, "Why talk to her grandfather?" she refuses to do so and complains about the fish smell. After the call, Mitsu tries to prepare the fish, but she finds it too disgusting. Her husband, Yoshiyuki, doesn't want to touch it either, so the fish ends up in the freezer. When they see a bug on the vegetables, they freak out so much that they don't even notice that it's actually Yui's fake eyelashes. Yoshiyuki ignores everything and keeps asking for food, while Yui only has eyes for her phone. So it's up to Mitsu to throw the bug away. Eventually, the son, Kenji, arrives, but doesn't greet anyone. He never takes off his headphones. And when Mitsu asks him if he wants dinner, he just shows her the fast food he bought and goes to his room without saying a single word. In their rooms, the siblings only spend time on their screens. Mitsu is worried about the smartphone bills and asks Yoshiyuki to talk to his kids about it, but he only pays attention to the TV. The next morning, Yoshiyuki oversleeps because his alarm clock hasn't rung. He checks it to discover that the hands are stuck. At 3, Mitsu informs him there's a blackout while throwing away the fish. Soon, Yui wakes up too and freaks out because her phone is out of battery. Mitsu wants to make breakfast, but can't, because the rice cooker and the electromagnetic stove aren't working. She manages to turn on a gas burner. However, the family refuses to wait and leaves without eating. Unfortunately, the elevator isn't working either, so all the residents have to go down several flights of stairs. At the station, the trains aren't working either, and nobody knows when they'll resume. So Yoshiyuki has to walk to the office. Meanwhile, Kenji is going to class on his bicycle and notices that his phone has quickly run out of battery. In fact, the only thing moving on the streets is bicycles, as cars have stopped working as well. A taxi driver tries to restart his engine with some water to no avail. Outside her building, Mitsu talks to the neighbors and they confirm nobody has power. The ladies decide to go shopping for candles, and Mitsu wants to come along, only to realize she left her wallet in the apartment. When Yoshiyuki arrives at his company, everyone is outside because the doors have electric locks that won't open. 2 men decide to break the glass so everyone can come in. Employees have to take the stairs to their offices, but they realize they can't work because there are no lights and no computers. At school, Yui discovers all her classmates are arriving late and nobody has a working phone. Some teachers can't even come to work. So many classes are sent to the study hall at college. Kenji is going through the same situation. At the grocery store, Mitsu discovers that the pre-made food shelves are already empty. People are buying things like candles and water in great quantities, so she does the same. The store employees announce that they can't take credit card because of the blackout, so clients can only pay in cash. Everyone rushes to the nearest ATM. After a few hours of waiting and doing nothing, Yoshiyuki's boss sends everyone home early. Refusing to walk again, Yoshiyuki decides to buy a bicycle. Unfortunately, prices have gone up to the extreme because everyone is desperate for one. So Yoshiyuki has no choice but to pay extra. When he arrives at his building, he finds an old lady resting on the stairs because climbing so many steps is too much for her. Later, while the family has dinner by candlelight, Yoshiyuki insists on working with pen and paper. Anytime they use the toilet, they have to flush it by throwing water from the bathtub. There's no water in the kitchen sink, so Mitsu can't do the dishes. Meanwhile, Yui tries to read a magazine by candlelight and comes so close to the flame that she burns her hair. Tired of doing nothing in their rooms, the siblings come out and Mitsu invites the whole family to the balcony since there isn't a single city light. There's a wonderful view of the stars. 2 days later, power still hasn't come back. Mitsu is washing clothes by hand using water from the tub. At school, Yui only finds a handful of students, so she decides to leave at the office. The boss announces that the company will be closed until power is restored then. Yoshiyuki watches his boss leave with his family for the mountains, hoping to find water and food there. When he turns around, he discovers a guy trying to steal his bicycle and quickly scares him away. In the meantime, Kenji rides his bicycle to the next town, only to discover that power is down here too. He's looking for the girl he likes, but when he sees her come out, he panics and hides his bicycle falls and hurts his foot, while he watches the girl leave town with her family at the water treatment plant. Mitsu and other neighbors wait for hours to fill their bottles. However, the employees inform them that they shut down the building because the pumps aren't working. There's water underground, but since it's not treated, it can be dangerous to drink it, so they refuse to gather it by hand. The crowd protests of a lack of help. At the bank, Yoshiyuki hears bankers explain that ATMs and debit cards aren't working, so the only way to get cash is by presenting an ID in the bank. Passbook. Each person is only allowed to withdraw the equivalent of $600. People freak out and start pushing each other as they try to get in. First, they cause Yoshiyuki to drop all his paperwork. And when he tries to pick it up, they end up hurting him. He has to escape to take care of his bleeding nose. On the 7th day of the blackout, grocery stores are empty and schools are closed. Some people have traveled to neighboring towns in search of food and water, only to find the same situation. More and more citizens are leaving Tokyo by the hour, hoping to find a solution in the countryside. After a pointless meeting with their neighbors, Yoshiyuki admits who check on an old lady in their building, whom they haven't seen in a while. It turns out she's died, and her family has come to retrieve the body. After this shock, the couple decides it's time to leave the city too. So they inform the kids that they'll travel to stay with their grandfather. When Yui protests because she finds little villages boring, Mitsu points out that she used to like playing on the village's beach when she was a child, but Yui doesn't remember this. Afterward, the family starts packing and frustrated. Kenji throws away the picture of the girl he likes. Everyone puts any cash they can find on the table. And Mitsu reveals she's got a decent amount of money she's been saving for emergencies. On their way out, the family hears the barking of an abandoned dog, but they ignore it. The siblings have bicycles. But Mitsu has to share with Yoshiyuki. They start making their way to the airport and notice lots of residents leaving on foot. There are also many people selling food and water, but Yoshiyuki refuses to pay for their crazy prices. Unfortunately, the further they go, the higher the prices are. Eventually, they stop at a store, and Mitsu manages to negotiate with the clerk to get a good price for a big order. This is a good moment for them to rest and eat something. The siblings watch a man getting an impressive number of fish from the river, yet they find it disgusting. When they try to go to the public bathroom, the smell is unbearable because the toilets haven't been flushed for days. They have no choice but to do it behind the bushes. When the family finally makes it to the airport, there's a desperate crowd gathering outside. The planes aren't working either, and the cops try to put up a barrier to keep people away. Half of the crowd gets angry and attacks the officers, while the other half walks away. In the evening, the family decides to stay at the closest motel and has to pay too much for the room. Yoshiyuki announces they'll travel to the village by bicycle, and Yui spends several minutes complaining about it. The next morning, the siblings break into a library to get a map, but all of them are gone except for one for kids. Kenji does some calculations and concludes it'll take them a month to reach the village by bicycle. Meanwhile, Yoshiyuki and Mitsu are looking for a bicycle for her and find one outside a rice store. The clerk isn't taking cash or expensive objects. She only exchanges rice for water or other food. The couple convinces her to give them the bicycle and a bag of rice in exchange for some bottles of alcohol. When the family finally leaves, they keep encountering closed roads, and Yoshiyuki concludes that the kitty map is useless. Then they decide to take the expressway, since nobody is asking for money at the booths. On the highway, they discover hundreds of people leaving the city. Sometime later, they stop to rest at a mall, but the doors are locked, so they have to camp outside. When a desperate couple asks them if they have water to share, Mitsu hides their bottles, and Yoshiyuki tells them they don't have any left. That night, the family has trouble sleeping because it's very cold. Kenji discovers a guy stealing their water and immediately runs after him, following him into a tunnel. When he's about to attack, he notices that the robber has a baby, so he lets him have the water. The next day, the family gets ready to cross that tunnel and finds a group of blind ladies. At the entrance, they offer to guide people if they're paid properly. Since the tunnel is a simple straight road, the family ignores them and moves ahead. However, the darkness soon gets them in trouble. They keep bumping into abandoned cars and stepping on nasty stuff. Like a dead raccoon, they end up going back and paying a blind lady, who easily guides them through the tunnel until they reach the exit. On the 16th day of the blackout, the family rests near the river and takes the chance to wash some clothes. They're almost out of matches and there's no water left. Yoshiyuki decides to drink from the river, ignoring his family's warnings. In the afternoon, a heavy rainstorm hits the area, so the family is forced to take shelter under a bridge while they watch their bicycles and things being blown by the wind. Yoshiyuki suddenly runs to the middle of the field. It turns out he has diarrhea because of the river water he drank. When the storm is finally over, the family starts picking up the things, which have spread all over the place. Mitsu's glasses are cracked, the rice is dirty on the ground, and a bicycle tire has been destroyed. Yoshiyuki is still feeling sick, so the family rushes to the nearest town. While the parents rest, the siblings break into a supermarket. Unfortunately, there's no food. Matches or tires left, the only things they grab are a flare, cat food and battery liquid, which is purified water and therefore edible. When they return to camp, Yui tries the cat food and spits it because it's disgusting. Kenji has no choice but to use his silicone phone case to fix his bicycle tire. As days continue to pass, the family gets used to dealing with the rain and eating cat food. The next time they stop to rest, they meet the side of family who seem to be doing just fine. They often went riding through the mountains and camp out a lot, so they know many survival techniques. There's water seeping through rocks with moss, and air-drying food to make it last longer. They also point out which weeds are edible, and even recommend eating cicadas. One of the boys has an old mechanical camera that still works, so he takes a picture of them. Yui gives him an address so he can send a copy later. Afterward, the families decide to continue their journey together. Mitsu and the kids get along with the Satos and are very grateful for their advice. But Yoshiyuki is green with envy and rides very fast, as if trying to show off when they stop at a bridge to rest. They see a group of soldiers walking by. A man explains that they come from a nuclear power plant, which wasn't working either. Now they're going to the next prefecture to check on a different plant. Then the families decide to part ways, because the Suzukis are going to Osaka to check if the rumors of power working there are true. On day 43, the family discovers that Osaka doesn't have power either. Yui freaks out since they don't have food or water. And an argument ensues. It ends with the family agreeing that Yoshiyuki isn't a responsible caretaker. While looking around the city, they're shocked to find lots of people eating fish outside an aquarium. The employees are handing out all the aquarium animals to be used as food, so the family rushes to get in line. Sadly, by the time they make it to the front, there's no food left on day 67. The group is exhausted, and they collapse in the middle of the countryside. A desperate Yoshiyuki grabs a bug, but before he can eat it, he sees a pig nearby. The family works together to surround it, and after lots of struggle, Yoshiyuki manages to kill the pig as they roll down the hill. Neither he nor Mitsu wants to cut it open though, so Kenji is in charge of the knife. Before he can move, he's stopped by Farmer Tanaka, who slashes the pig's neck without hesitation. Afterward, the family drags the dead pig to Tanaka's house, where they can drink water from a well. Tanaka explains that his electric fences stopped working, so all his pigs ran away if the family helps him catch them all again. He'll share his food, the group agrees, and Tanaka gives them a very nice breakfast that includes smoked pork. It's so delicious that it makes you cry. After a neighbor comes by to drop some vegetables, Tanaka forces the family to help him butcher the pig. They're pretty disgusted, but push through it for the sake of survival. This usually takes Tanaka a lot of time, but now the process is going faster thanks to all this help. The meat is cut into pieces and salted for conservation. When it's time for a bath, they have to fill the tub with buckets from the well and start a fire with wood to heat the water. That night, Tanaka lends them pajamas that he bought for when his son's family visits. Those relatives are living in the USA now, and he doesn't have a way to contact them. Yoshiyuki and Mitsu realize how lucky they are to still have their kids with them and fall asleep holding hands. For the next few days, the family spends all their time with chores and learns a lot about farm life. They chase after all the pigs and actually have lots of fun bringing them back to the farm. Yai learns how to sew from Mitsu, who is in charge of washing clothes. Yoshiyuki chops wood and Kenji has better tools to fix his bicycle. Tanaka asks the family to live with him, since they're very helpful and he hates being alone. However, the Suzukis would rather be with their grandfather. As thanks, Tanaka gives them enough smoked pork for the rest of their trip. A few days later, the family makes it to the river and is devastated to discover that there's no bridge. Yoshiyuki finds an oar, some rope, and wood by the shore, so they work together to build a raft. First, the guys take the women and their things to the other side. Then they go back to get their bicycles. Suddenly it starts raining, so they need to hurry. Yoshiyuki and Kenji move as fast as possible. But unfortunately, the raft breaks under the weight of the bicycles. Kenji gives up and quickly swims to reunite with the others. But the stubborn Yoshiyuki keeps clinging to the wood, and eventually the bicycles push him underwater. His family screams in despair as they see the current drag him away. After the rain stops, Kenji goes looking for his father, but only finds his toupee. Everyone immediately breaks down in grief. On day 94, the group is following the train tracks. Mitsu is too depressed to keep walking, so Kenji has to pull her to make her move. When they grab some pork from their bags to eat, a dog approaches them and whines to beg for food. Yui wants to feed the poor thing, but Kenji scolds her. The dog steals the pork from Yui's hand anyway and runs away. Soon more dogs show up, and a Doberman jumps to grab Mitsu's bag with its mouth. She tries to take it back, but the struggle causes her to fall and roll down the hill. The kids immediately rush to help her and discover she's broken her ankle. They help her walk after seeing the dogs eat everything in her bag. When they try to leave, they walk very slowly because of Mitsu's condition. The dogs quickly come back for more, so the family holds each other and waits for the worst. At that moment, a steam train appears on the tracks. So the dogs run away. The train stops right in front of the family, who immediately come aboard for the rest of their journey. There are plenty of water bottles to share, and lots of people from Tokyo who are also moving to the countryside. A doctor bandages Mitsu's ankle and asks about their father, causing the kids to cry meanwhile. On the river shore, Yoshiyuki wakes up and starts walking. However, he's too weak to go far and ends up collapsing against a tractor. Suddenly, he sees the train pass by, but he doesn't have the energy to scream. Luckily, he still has the flare in his pocket and manages to light it up just in time. Mitsu sees him and immediately makes the train stop, so the kids can run to reunite with their father. Later on the train, Mitsu gives Yoshiyuki his toupee, but he throws it away when the train goes through a tunnel. The engine smoke enters the cars through the windows and leaves everyone coughing. It also makes their faces black, causing the wait. The family finally makes it to the village and meets with Sasaki, who can't believe he's finally being visited. 2 years and 126 days later, the Suzukis are happy in their new farm life. They fish, sow, and enjoy the vegetables they planted themselves. One morning, Yoshiyuki is awakened by a strange sound. He leaves the house to follow it and discovers an alarm clock ringing in a storage house. Suddenly, the village's speakers start playing music, and all the neighbors come out to look at the street lights again. A few days later, all the original Tokyo residents are back in the city. On TV, experts have many theories about the cause of the blackout: a solar flare, a comet that came too close to Earth, and even cyber terrorism. The Suzukis now spend more time with each other and aren't afraid of chores. They install an old-style landline telephone at home, and Yoshiyuki keeps using a bicycle to go to work. When the mailman brings them a letter, they're delighted to find the picture the Saido boy took of them on the road. After 2 years of absolute silence, the power finally returns. Everything goes back to normal, but the Suzuki family is changed forever. They survived the impossible, but it leaves us with one haunting question. If the world went dark tomorrow, would you be ready to survive?